Welcome back to the Monarch Podcast. My name is Daniel, founder and CEO of the Monarch brand. And this platform, we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about community, we talk about self-care, mental health. We're going to hit on a few of those today. I have a friend of mine that I'm really excited to talk about. I'm really excited because he's in this space as well. And so it's easier to interview someone who's also in this space. But also just like he's someone that I actually consider a friend. We definitely grown in a short amount of time. So it's pretty dope. But I have another fellow podcast producer. He hosts on the Underdog Sports NFL show and Appraise as well. I have Mario Hines with me. How you feeling, bro?
Bro, what's good, man? I'm honored. Like I was telling you in pre, I'm honored, man, to be a part of this. I'm honored to be considered a friend as we're growing this out, man. But like, you're good people, dog. So this is exciting for me, for real. I'm feeling good.
For sure. Feeling is mutual. And
Yeah.
if you were to rate it, right, like physically 1 to 10, how you feeling? And like mentally 1 to 10, how you feeling?
Ooh, physically, I would say a 7.5. It's a hard bar for me because I'm used to holding it up against like being in great shape in my body, always doing what I wanted to do. So like 7.5 is comparable to that. But I actually I needed some fiber today and I realized I needed, so I bought some apples yesterday and I took one down. So I'm feeling good. Physically, okay. That's good. 7.5 good. Mentally, man, I'm at a cruising 8, bro. Like, typically probably an 8 for me would have more energy to it if I was around people. But like, I feel good. I have nothing that's pulling me down, but I'm also in a place where I'm like, yeah, you don't need a rise right now. You know what
yeah, I feel it.
Good. Yeah.
I didn't plan on talking about this, but now that you mentioned the number and you mentioned specifically you're used to feeling a certain way physically, as you age, because we're the same age, I believe.
Yep.
35, right?
So. 35, yep.
Yeah. So how has that expectation changed? How have you been able to manage that expectation of like, this is how I used to feel, and this is how 35-year-old Mario feels now? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's crazy because like the anticipation, whether it be from society or whatever, we know what number we on when we in the 30s. Like, we know that number coming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, in comparison, sometimes it just catches me off guard. Like my knees. I had my mom up the other day and I'm like, my knees are bad. My knees are bad, especially my left one. And I got out of sports relatively clean, you know what I'm saying? So just wear and tear, just like I can't do the infamous black pose in pictures no more because it takes me about 20 minutes to get up out the crouch.
Right.
So yeah,
right.
That's where I'm at with it, man. It's scary, but I get it because I also consider myself relatively blessed to be able to like function like I can function normally, but like the knees be needing some oil.
Yeah. My cousin, same age as us, he always say, my check knee light on. You feel me? So I feel it, man, because like if I have a stretch routine before I even like sit up in bed, you know what I mean? And then like once I'm able to get to the point where I'm ready to actually get up, I have a sit up stretch routine, made my way to the foam roller, like everything. I have to do my yoga twice a week. I have to stretch after the workout, before the workout, like all that stuff has to happen for me to be able to feel it, even at a 7, just because of that wear and tear. So I feel you when you say that.
I need to get on that, bro. I've never been a stretch type. I'm a dynamic warm up type. Yeah. And that came later, but I got to get on it, man. Cause my body's like, hey bro, I thought you cared.
Right. Bro. Yeah. For me, I wasn't really a stretcher or an icer or anything until I started doing these like all-day tournaments. And when I used to be in this church league, we would have all-day basketball, all-day football tournaments. And once you start to cramp up in those things, like it's over with. Like it could be game 3 out of 5. It could be third quarter game 5 out of 5. When you cramp, there's no real coming back from that,
Right.
It's just, you're it's inevitable. And so I was like, I got to figure out how to be able to last during these things. And so I started looking up stuff like nutrition. What do marathon runners do to train for a marathon? So I started carbo loading. I started getting all these like day of supplements and
Yeah.
recovery supplements, stuff like that. And I eventually was just like, I feel good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
When that
so
switch get flipped, that's what I was like in two ways. It's funny you mentioned that. I was just talking to my homeboy about it. And it's like one, when you start those routines, you start to realize when your body is off and like, oh, I'm not just dragging, like I feel my body off. I can even feel when it's starting up. And you have a better opportunity to access what it exactly needs. So like when I mentioned like I needed fiber, I'm like, it's only because I try hard enough to be in tune. So I'm like, oh, this is like some roughage energy. This isn't like sugar energy that I need. It's like roughage sustained energy. So I'm like, oh, that sounds like fiber. You know what I'm saying? I need some grounding and shit. So that's how like I love that you mentioned like the routines and how it gives you access to that. That's second to none.
for sure. But we're gonna get into it, man. We're actually talking about where I wanted to start indirectly, so I'll make it direct now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So you played football. When did you start playing football? And where are you from? Like, I feel like I can't quite. It's something about you. I can't quite put my finger on it.
In case you didn't know, I should say explicitly, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I wear one of these hats everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, it's like it's a thing, and I'll get into the football thing in a minute. But I'm glad you asked because one, Detroit's a very proud city, and like
Mm-hmm.
most, you know, what I'm saying most big cities, but we're a very proud city mainly because we have a negative reputation nationally, and so there's a certain like thing you want to do with representing Detroit on a positive level, and not positive like polished, but positive like no, we kick it, we cool, we're proud. So I I got into a habit of just wearing my hat all the time, and now I have so many hats. I'm like a cartoon character. So yeah, from Detroit. Started playing ball. Funny story, funny to me story is I wasn't allowed to play till seventh grade. My dad played football, and he actually got a scholarship to Western Michigan, and got hurt his freshman year in camp. Took the train home. My grandma didn't make him go back, so he was like, it's a physical game. So I was into basketball and baseball growing up, and I was at a time in Detroit where basketball was it, and then baseball was still like young black athletes was down. So he was like, you can't play, you can't play. Well, we had Barry Sanders on the Lions when I was growing up. So I'm like, that's who I want to be. Like, he's fun. You know what I'm saying? This is the sport. And I was nice in the neighborhood. And so one day, I'll never forget this. One day there was some PAL leagues playing, youth leagues playing on TV, and they was in the Silver Dome. I was like, Dad, come here. Like, look, look, I want to do that. You know what I'm saying? So he was like, all right, I ain't gonna break your soul. I ain't gonna break your soul. So all right, go ahead. We'll sign you up this upcoming fall. And he said that in his head it was he thought he was doing reverse psychology. He thought I would go to practice, get smacked up because I'm average size human, but I'm little in the football world. So he was like, yeah, you're going to go get smacked up. I know how physical it is. I went, loved it, tore it up. He came and see me play in my seventh grade year. Like, you actually got some talent. And then off we went.
So you played. Obviously, you went from there, and then you played college ball.
I played college ball. I went to Robert Morris. So kids, take your education seriously. I went to an unaccredited high school in Detroit. So there's like the I don't like to romanticize the struggles of Detroit, but Detroit has had struggles. They're documented. So I was in the mix of that. I wasn't in the streets, but you know what I'm saying, like streets adjacent type of thing where my neighborhood knew I had talent, so they kept me out the mess, but I'm in the neighborhood type thing. So I went to one of the, you know what I'm saying, one of the lower schools in Michigan, but I was a very good athlete. And my pops, knowing I was a good athlete, he took me around or whatever. So I was able to get relatively decent exposure. I actually even transferred to one of the better schools in Michigan called Detroit Country Day, and I just didn't fit in. It was a preppy school. I was there on like it's such a high profile elite school that they gave out athletic scholarships in high school and middle school. So I was there on scholarship, and I just didn't like it. I lasted a year. I was one of two black kids, and it just didn't flow. got myself back in E-Course High School is where I went, and tried one more time to go. Didn't work out again. Again, my own issues. You know what I'm saying? I didn't do the thing they said I did, but I got kicked out. And so I went back to E-Course. That's where I was stuck at. And my dad was like, we can't keep moving you. You got to stick it out here. So I was still successful. I was an All-American, but I didn't take school seriously enough because it was easy. So I wanted to fit in and shit. So I had a hard time qualifying. I was getting offers, but I had a hard time qualifying. Long story short, I ended up going to 1AA Robert Morris, who was able to get me qualified. And I was a 2-time All-American there. So I had a pretty good college career. Was able to keep playing, thankfully. So I was in a couple training camps, Philadelphia Eagles and rookie mini camp, Indianapolis Colts training camp in 2008. Learned a lot about being a smaller player in a big man's game, but also about preparation, how to be a pro. Transferred that into learning how to be a man. Took that into arena ball for a little bit. Didn't like the wear and tear and pounding for a fraction of the cost. So I took a year off. And then Europe ball overseas started buzzing. Got a call, and I was like, let me wrap my career up or rejuvenate my career. I was in like kind of a rock bottom situation where I always felt I was supposed to be doing something. I didn't want my football identity to be all that was me because I had failed, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I don't want. No, yeah, I can do whatever I want. You know what I'm saying? I'm not football. Football ain't me. But I was running from the vehicle that it provided. So once I started running from that, I was like, let me go overseas, change my life, change my environment, hopefully change the life of those that I care about, and then get back to the mission, which is helping the hood, which is I always said, I'm going to come back and help the hood, dog. Since y'all helped me and kept me out of trouble, I'm going to help y'all out. So I went overseas, finished my career overseas for 3 years. It was a great time, opened up my mind a lot, expanded my mind. I was over in Germany playing at GFL, probably the third best league in the world behind American football and then CFL, Canadian football. So it was really good comp, great situation, able to travel the world, great teammates that I love to this day. You know what I'm saying? So it was solid.
Cool. What, related, unrelated, what position did you play? And did you have to change positions at any point, or did you decide to change positions at any point?
Man, great question. Cause I was pretty good, man. So I was athletic, fast, explosive kid. You know what I'm saying? So both sides of the ball, coaches on both sides of the ball wanted me. I loved offense. I wanted to be a running back because that's what Barry Sanders was. Running backs ain't my size, dog.
Right.
Running backs a little bit bigger. So they moved me to receiver. And at that time, receivers that you could catch a quote unquote small receiver. So I played receiver and I got good at it. And then my junior year in high school, the defensive coaches wanted me to play DB. And in high school, you play both ways. And again, this is like kind of framed where my mindset was at. Like I always was aspirational, always willing to work hard, always had my goals, but I was still like stubborn in ways. I'm like, yo, I play receiver. So I'm not going to tell you no, I'm not going to play on defense, but I'm going to tap my helmet whenever I feel like coming off the field on defense. And I will get my homeboy Myron, one of my best friends to this day, and I would be like, yo, go in for me. So like it was, I thought I was doing a positive thing. Like, I'm giving my homeboy a chance to get some playing time, and I'm not, you know what I'm saying? And I don't have to fucking worry about defense. I can go and be ready to do my thing on offense. So I did that. And then in college, I did not expect this when I got to Robert Morris. They had 2 jerseys in my locker and they let me choose between offense and defense. And I'm like, yo, like you see me again, not small human in human terms, but in football. I'm like, who's tackling who?
Right.
In college,
Right.
Division I. I'm not doing that. So I'm like, yeah, y'all can have this Navy jersey back. I'm gonna go with the white one and stay on the offensive side of the ball. So that was the last of that. I played a little bit both ways overseas, again, just because that's kind of how the culture of the game, and I was just athletic enough to pull it off without real technical training. So
Okay. Yeah, I actually did a little bit of research on you, and I saw you had, for your career stats at Robert Morris, you had 70 receptions, about 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, average, 17 yards a carry. I was like, oh, that's about what I used to do in church league. You feel me?
No, yeah, I was trying to be what y'all was trying to be you, dog. I'm like, hey, man, if I can perform like D. Lee, I know I'll make it. So that was it.
No, but So what was your proudest moment like during that time? Like when did you just have that moment where you just had to like really reflect on and be like, wow, I'm here.
So it iterates. I think in high school, again, I was very stubborn. Like, so it's weird because there's like two divergent things happening as I progress. One is that my level, the volume of my hard work was decreasing as I got older, but my maturity was increasing as I got older. So I was less mature, but working hard as hell. And I was, you know what I'm saying, partially motivated by my dad and his, his, what's the word I'm looking for? Infatuation with my success. You know what I mean? Shout out to my pops for giving me ambition, but you know what I'm saying? Like black fathers sometimes struggle a little bit, and are compensating for things. So never would I bash him on a podcast or on the internet or nothing like that. But you know what I'm saying? Like he has some things to reconcile that hopefully he does one day. So I'm working out all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm training as a receiver all the time. My basement, we'll go to the fields, running routes. Like I was able to, that's why I was so skilled so early. But I wasn't mature. So you get to college and I'm getting around other people and I'm comparing my skill set to others. And I'm like, oh, I really am that guy. And then, and I was doing it in camps too. You know what I'm saying? Like in college camps, going into college, and I just was like, once I had a moment, my one college moment, I had kind of like two, was my first play. My first play in college was a touchdown, 61-yard touchdown. My first catch in college was a 61-yard touchdown. I started my freshman year. And I'm like, all right, bet I can do this. So that was another flag in the ground. Like, okay, hard work pays off. So I go through all that, man, and again, like more mature, but still kind of entitled in the sense that hard work equals what I want. That was my mindset. Like I'm putting in the work, I should get exactly what I want in life. But I was always side by side. I was always trying to bring my homies along with me in an immature way, like not taking care of my business, not making sure that I was handling mine to be able to lift them up. So I was willing to sacrifice, you know what I'm saying, being sharp, willing to sacrifice being all that to pull them up. So fast forward to, you know what I'm saying, not being successful in training camps and not and then having to play arena ball and then that not being as glamorous and me saying like I don't want ball to getting back into Europe and just looking around. That's when I really was like, that's a coming of age moment because I got to experience a part of what it felt like a little bit. I would say in rookie mini camp, the coach camp was so professional. It was just a different thing, and I'll never forget it. But like, okay, I'm in a new place. I feel good. I'm appreciative. Like my gratitude for the sport, my gratitude for work, and so just starting to get success in college. I mean, in Europe, and then seeing the success of my teammates. And we took the team. We had like. It's like soccer. So if you follow soccer, there's relegation and then there's, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And we took a first year GFL team and I was predicted to finish last. We took them in a tie for second. And it was like, okay, like this is what it is to be a part of a winner, to find your individual success, be grateful for your life on the field and be grateful for your life off the field. So that was my flag moment. I'll say 2013.
Okay, that's dope. Now, mentally, what was that shift like? Right, like switching from that to getting into. Is that when you from there? Is that when you got into like data and IT?
Ooh, that journey. So y'all gonna learn really quickly. I'm like, nigga, what is this nigga be on? Is that I learning. I love to learn. I look around. I look at the world around me. I connect dots and I move. I'm an action based person. I'm a results outcome based person. And luckily, I'll say luckily / thankfully, I'm a relationships person. So that makes me, you know what I'm saying? I love the human connection. So all that to say, I always knew that football was a means to an end. I never thought football was everything. So my part of my being discouraged about not making it in the league was like, how am I going to help anybody if no one knows who I am or if I don't have the money to do it? So that was part of my being discouraged. But I had prayed one day for real, and I was back home. I came to Detroit for like probably like 8 months. This is right before I signed my German contract, and I'm watching the NFL, and this is my first year off away from ball at all. And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, yo, like they should be grateful, like, you know what I'm saying, almost like wishing on their downfall a little bit, you know what I'm saying, always comparing it. And then I was like, yo, like I could hear something telling me, like, if I fixed all the world's problems right now, right, what would you be good for? Like, does your quality, does your value rely on things not going well? Like why are you sitting here hating on the next man? You know what I'm saying? So like, you're telling me that if I, the creator of all things, said tomorrow, I'll change my mind, like everything's smooth, you would be useless. And I had to like, I rose up off my seat, and I was like, I can't, who am I to say? Who am I to judge what connecting with one person, connecting with one person is not as valuable as connecting with a million? So from that point on, I was like, any interaction I have is going to be a quality interaction, and that's how I'm going to serve. So fast forward back to finishing up. I finished up in Europe in 2015, knowing that I wanted to get out healthy. I had moved to Boston because I had met who would end up being my ex-wife, and I'm like, I want to have a quality life with this person, and I want to get into the next phase of my life, which during the off season, every off season since Arena Ball, I was working in youth development and nonprofit and trying to, you know what I'm saying, help the hood or whatever. So during one of the off seasons in 2014, I created a positive youth development program called Brand Me, which worked with young people's self-identity. It was a positive self-identity program. And I'm like, I want to push this. I want to push this in schools. So I retired. I moved full-time to Boston. I'm like, here we go. And so I started making my way through nonprofit from 2015 through 20, I would say 20. Oh, it only took me a year. Goddamn, 2016. I linked up with this organization called Future Chefs. They were looking for a youth development manager. My resume was pretty good. The football thing always helps, and I interview well. And so I got that position, and my job was to make sure that this program that used cooking as a way to develop young people through positive youth development and put them on track for success, that wasn't getting lost in the shuffle, and that it wasn't becoming a culinary school. So I'm peeping the scene, and I'm looking at the staff. I'm meeting the staff, again, big on human connection. That's how I learn, really, not like by widgets and numbers, ironically. And I'm like, oh, the work is being done. Like, me to the ED in my head, though, the work is being done. So what I don't see and what I'm hearing from the staff is that they're burnt out because they're always chasing the carrot of proof. How do you prove a young person is developing until they're done? How do you prove that you're doing the work you're saying day in, day out? I was like, oh, okay, they don't need me on their backs, breathing down their neck. They need me to prove that they already doing the work. So I started like fading back from direct service. And the ED, like, I had a good relationship with her and is a mentor to me to this day, but she was like, what's going on? Luckily, I had that trust. She's like, why are you not as involved in direct service? Because I'm very good with young people. And I was just like, I have to do this thing. I'm always going to do what I want, what I think is best, basically. And so I started developing a data and outcome system in the background because I knew it would just be necessary. And I didn't know how to explain it. I just knew it was necessary, and I just was doing my research. Eventually, the program got turned on its head. It was getting kicked out of its space because Boston, as much as progressive as they say they are, and shout out to Boston, the gentrification is real, dog. So they, the economic gap, the wealth gap, the education gap is real. So I love you, Boston, for your opportunities, but hey, we got to be real about it. So as that was happening, I'm like, okay, she's like, we're getting kicked out. We're going to campaign to get a new building, and we need all the proof that we're worth this campaign. And I was like, well, lucky you. I have been developing a system that proves that Future Chefs has been doing what you say and what the staff say they've been doing. And I created a report, a data report, the first of its kind in the organization. And they were wild. They're like, when did you have time to do this? And I was like, when I was trying to tell y'all that I needed to work from home so that the kids wouldn't bother me and y'all wouldn't bother me. So I was able to like start remote working like once or twice a week. And they didn't, like I said, it was off the trust and off human connection, man. So I pivoted into data right there. And then I was like, yo, I want to do this for real because this is this is how I can scale what I believe in. Like I can't be in 100 rooms at once. I can't be rocking with 100 youth at once, but I can create a system that impacts them and counts them as people, even though the system wants them as numbers. All right, we'll give them a number, but we're going to make sure that the context and nuance is that they're people. I can create that system. So I'm like, I'll take a step back. And I was like, because the organization ain't ready, I'll go part-time. I bet on myself. I'll go part-time. What they didn't know was that I was ready to use this on my resume. And another organization that was kind of adjacent, that the program director of Future Chefs, she was on the board of another nonprofit that needed support. And I was like, hey, yo, you know what I'm saying? I'm here. Y'all been begging me. I'm here. So I flipped that. And that's when I started stacking contracts. That was my first endeavor into stacking contracts. I did that in 2018. So it took me 2 years to get this done. You know what I'm saying? I took a year of observation and then a year of development. And then 2018, I proposed it. And I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do data and I'm going to make my mark this way. And then the pandemic hit and I was like, oh, everybody should be doing data because we got to sit down. So I actually became pandemic proof and recession proof at that point. So that was a blessing from God that like I listened there, but yeah, that's how I got into data. Sorry to be so long winded, but I've took a lot of twists and turns, dog.
Yeah. No, it's dope that it's actually kind of funny hearing your perspective of it because from knowing you, maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, but from what I know about you, from what I gather and observe, I feel like you're a little bit more extroverted.
Yeah.
So I also like get off on human connection, but I'm an introvert. You know what I mean? And so like even though I enjoy it, I have to be really efficient with how I use, like, to a fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because like I have to like really will myself to it because like sometimes I might miss out on something. Whereas I appreciate you sharing that because you use your strengths to like out of what I consider to be altruistic, endeavor that end up working out for you, So that's part of why I started to do this because I wanted to hear about people's journeys with that. And, it's cool to watch people kind of create their own paths that way, so I appreciate you sharing is where I'm getting at.
For sure.
So when did podcasting come into the picture?
Ooh, podcasting. Same year, man. Crazy. 2018 must have been a flag in the ground year. So I get that new contract halfway through. I don't want to say halfway, maybe a quarter into that year. My boy Chris Hordale hit me up. Now at that time he was my boy, but like in quotations, right? My boy. Like we just had a good relationship. And I had met him coming out of Robert Morris. I was thinking about coming out my junior year from 1AA. That's how ambitious I was. But I was kind of a known name coming out of high school because I did the camp circuit. So like people knew who I was. They knew I was in 1AA for no reason. Like I said, I was the offense wasn't great, but I was a fire return man. Like my return game mixed with my offensive film like made me a prospect. So I was like, all right. So my junior year, I interviewed with his draft site called NFL Draft Blitz. He had one of the biggest draft sites. He was young at the time, maybe 20. He created a draft site. It blew the hell up. People that are like household names in ESPN and Sporting News and all that, they wrote for him on his site. And so they interviewed with him. Like I said, I'm a good interview. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, I'm extroverted. So I'm like, he appreciated it. And I guess in comparison to other players that they interviewed, they don't go so well. I don't know. But so we always kept in contact, and he actually employed me to do a senior year journal. So I did a senior year journal, a week-to-week journal, documenting my senior year all the way up into the draft, and he appreciated that. So we would keep in touch or whatever, and he pivoted into podcasting early. He saw the curve, like he saw it ahead of time. So he had moved to California, got a podcast network rolling, and pivoted from blogging publication, website publication to podcasting. And he was like, yo, I got a podcast network. And we had done like one-offs here and there. And I don't have an NFL show out of all the shows. He was like, and I got to start one because we have success and the sponsors are asking. do you want to co-host it? And I was like, yeah, bet. Like I hardly turn down opportunities, like very hardly. That's one of the things. And then again, like my ambitious dad and that ambitious mind, like if I can fit the time, I'll do it. And then I'll decide after if I have the capacity, because I don't know what I'm saying no to. So I said, yeah, I did good. It blew up relatively. And by relatively, I mean, it was the number one sports podcast for the first like 8 weeks. We were out. It was shocking. He even said, he was like, this doesn't happen. So I don't want you to think that this is what happens. This is not what happens. And in my head, I'm like, nigga, this is what happens when I do. I think the common denominator is me, bro. But but I mean, I'm a relative nobody in terms of like, I had a cup of coffee in the league. Like all I got to show for it is my bent up NFL card that they don't even care about no more. That's just digital now. And from there, I'm like, I love this. And we have built a rapport, and I'm like, I want to do more of this. I really want to do more of this. And since I had success, I'm like, I think I can do more of this. So he always let me pitch him ideas. And I pitched him one idea about a mental health and sports show, podcast, because that's right before mental health became like a public facing thing, like right before. It wasn't like we weren't ahead of the curve, but like we weren't behind it. Right. So he was like, I don't know, man, like it's still kind of blah, 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 but I trust you. Pitch me a pilot. So me and one of my old friends, who was a psychologist who played basketball at Robert Morris, did a pilot. It did well. That fizzled out due to her burnout in the industry, but it was just a good like test run for like, okay, producing everything from soup to nuts from start to finish, learning the game. And then from there, I sat for a little bit. And then I was sitting down one day, man, and I had an idea for my other show. And I'm like, all right, I can do podcasting. I can do this shit. I love it. I can do it for other people. So I started letting people know I can edit for you, because everything was from scratch. You know what I'm saying? Because the network supports, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? I can either do ads with you or I can do the work for you where you get less of the cut. I'm like, yeah, I'm about it. And I went to school for communication. So shit, I'm using it.
What is the format for the NFL show like?
The format, I mean, again, a lot I learned. I can kind of like you mentioned a lot of the time when we talk about just your ability to absorb and process, and I try to do the same. My feet probably be moving a little too quick. You're a little more grounded than I am and methodical in that sense. But Chris does a great job of having a roll in. He rolls it in, and at this point, because sports betting is so large, that we do like hot topics for the first maybe 15, 20, and then we get into picks, because one of our main sponsors is the sports book. So we do picks every week. So now it's pretty routine and cut and dry. What we first started off with was interview based in hot topics, and we had a couple good interviews. We had Trey Waynes in there. Just try to use some of my connections. Trey Waynes. We had Brian Allen, center from the Rams. Now he's a Super Bowl champion. Darquez Denard. We had Jesse Sapolu, the Hall of Fame tackle guard, blocked for Joe Montana. We had a couple decent guests, man. And then we pivoted into this big old world of gambling. So it kind of goes like that, probably like 40, 45 minutes.
Gotcha. So hearing you talk about your father growing up, and then you being a football player, and then transitioning into communication, which was your educational background, to what extent did football prepare you for podcasting? And I ask for a little bit of context. I think about, it was Russell Wilson, I believe, who said that his father used to like prepare him for interviews, growing up. And so by the time he got to that stage, he was already polished, so to what extent was that nature for you, or to what extent was like football nurture, because it sounds like a little bit to both, but I would like to hear it from you.
Yeah. I've always had this cadence, so to speak, not this specific cadence, but a cadence. It's take me back to like there was Mildred Gaddis is her name, and we had some. My dad was a pastor, and so we was in the community doing stuff. And so the rallies and all that stuff not new to me, in a sense. And so there was one rally that I did. It was a Mildred Gaddis rally, and she brought up some young people, and I got picked for whatever reason. Maybe they knew her. I don't know. Pulled me up, and I felt so comfortable up there. I even ad-libbed something. I don't even remember. I ad-libbed. I'm like, I can do this. So I've always had that. But football and its preparation of like polish is a really good word. Like being ready to say the thing you want to say, and also being aware of the question you're being asked. And I flip that into, all right, how do I ask questions that I want answers to? Because a lot of the time I'm like, that's not what I would want to ask. That's not what I would want to answer to. And so like, that's what helped me become a good podcaster is, again, like taking the interview I did with NFL Draft List coming out. And I'm like, this was pretty good. It got to the nitty gritty. It fluffed at the beginning and end, and it got to the points. And I'm practicing. I'm practicing what a good flow is. I'm practicing what a good answer is. I'm practicing what being succinct is. I'm practicing what boundaries you can cross. And you just, you know what I'm saying? Football really prepared me for a lot of that stuff because there's consequence for fucking up an interview. There's reward for being a positive or good interview, and you just start to pick up on that. So I definitely think it helped me out a lot.
Gotcha. So you've been doing the football show, and then you did the pilot, and you did the other show for a little bit.
Yep.
And at what point did Appraise Appraise come in?
Appraise Appraise, man, that was born. That was getting that was conceived early on because this is how my brain works. And I'm just constantly thinking about how we communicate. A lot of it is, again, that interpersonal relationship thing. So I'll take this. Let's go all the way back to 10th grade. And I'll never forget Marcia Stevens, bro. Like she said to me, I was such a know-it-all because I wanted to like get to the root of stuff. I'm like, I just have the answer. And a lot of the stuff we say is not what we mean to say. I just want y'all to know that. That's what I've always thought that. Like, and what I realized relatively early, like in high school, I'm like, oh, we spend a lot of time reading between the lines. That's no fun for me. I don't know if it's fun for y'all. It's not fun for me. I would like for you to take what I say for what I said. Like that is a goal for me. I'm still in pursuit of that. Yeah. So fast forward to me chopping it up with my co-host of the mental health podcast at one point, because like we were friends. And I say something, and I say, man, or she say, man, just give them the benefit of the doubt. And I was like, yeah. And then I stopped and I text back and I was like, I don't even like that. I don't like benefit of the doubt. I don't like that because there is you are not going to benefit from me doubting you. You're going to get all of the doubt. That's it. Like, I'm not going to keep playing this game with myself. And that thought spurred, like, so we was like, let's look up the definition. And that's what we used to start doing with words when we would text. We were like, I don't know if I mean to say that. And we would look up the definition. And I'm like, yo, this is something that I want to explore for real. Like, I really want to explore this. Like, where are we getting this shit from and how did it get here? And why are we keep saying it? And why don't we stop? Or why don't we keep going? Whatever it is. And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna see if Chris would be down for this. So I pitched it very, very softly. And he was like, it's very interesting. It's niche, but it's very interesting. And if you can deliver a pilot, it's routine. Because he's a guy that's like, I'm not going to big up a lot of stuff. He's a very straight shooter. So he's like, hey, if you give me a pilot and I like it, you can go with it because you haven't steered me wrong yet. So I put together a pilot. It's the Benefit of the Doubt episode, which I'll never release. It's the Benefit of the Doubt because it's just me, solo dolo, talking to myself. So it was the Benefit of the Doubt episode. And that episode I actually did two. I did Burning Bread, which I thought I would do. I wanted to use my sport. I always kind of want to connect my sports mind with it because that's also how it helps me see the world and connect dots. And so I wanted to do like a first round draft pick phrase, one that everybody say, and then like a under the radar phrase or maybe regional or something. So Burning Bread, I figured was regional because I ain't never heard nobody say it. So I did those two. He liked it, and then he gave me the suggestion of having a co-host or at least a guest. And he said, just do one because you want to be able to explore it further. And that was it.
How did the format kind of flesh out? Is that something that you guys developed over time or that you developed over time?
All right. So what makes me a good producer, bro, is that I see the world in spreadsheets. I see my mind works in spreadsheets, so I can compartmentalize things. I can make things thematic. I can make things flow. Like my mind is a formula. I was actually talking to my therapist about this today. I'm like, my issue or my issue not continues to be, what a strong issue I've had was that the object doesn't necessarily matter. I hyperfixate on the outcome. So like if I'm a Scorpio and they're like there's an answer, I'm into it a little bit enough, I would say. And they say like we're possessive, and I'm like, wrong. One mark against astrology. I haven't been obsessed with one person in my entire life. That's never been how I get down. And as I'm maturing, I'm like, oh, I'm possessive of, and I fixate on the outcome of things. And the reason why I do that is because I think I can create a formula. I'll figure out the formula, whatever. The object is almost inconsequential. So like add, like when you say object, add like a person, add a relationship, like you know what I'm saying? Add, you know what I'm saying? A young lady, whatever you want to do. So I say all that to say it came in my, like I formatted it in my head. I put it in a spreadsheet, all the elements I wanted to have. And then I just kept putting it around, flipping it around the spreadsheet until the key elements of what I wanted to express were there. Now the timing of it and what hit and what stuck was formatted over time. And once I was able to have 20, my co-host, because he was my first guest, but he wasn't an official co-host until halfway through season 1. We're in season 2 now. Once I got to catch his flow and his suggestions, and I'm like, okay, now we got a format that works. That people, and we're still constantly, you know what I'm saying, refining it, but we got a flow that works, which is, you know what I'm saying, bring the relationship, bring the ease, bring the humor, bring what we got. Let's get to it, but let's have a conversation about it. Let's get to the facts and let's see how we feel about these facts, and then let's do something about it, which is grading. The grading is just stand 10 toes on what you say, stand 10 toes on what you feel, and be willing to put something to it. You know what I'm saying? Don't just tell me how you feel, like tell me how you feel. Tell everybody how you feel. So that's how I go.
I asked this about football.
Yeah.
But as a podcast producer, what's been your proudest moment so far?
True. I would say the reception of season 2 has probably been my proudest moment. I took a big leap. We got positive feedback from season 1, so much so that Chris, we had a meeting. We had an in-person meeting because he had moved back to the Midwest with his lady. Because his lady from the Midwest, he's from the East Coast. So they had established themselves in California, done a good job. So they moved back. He's like, I want to have an in-person meeting about season 2. So I'm like, oh, this shit must be doing good, bro. Because I don't peep the numbers. I ask, but I don't peep them weekly. And so once we had that meeting, he was like, you think you can transition to visual? I'm like, absolutely. I think that's the thing that's going to make the show go. And so I took a big leap in, you know what I'm saying, marketing, build up, launch, and I still got things to learn, but I think it landed relatively. I think that as the awareness grows, anytime I put it in front of somebody, it's received warmly. It's received with like sincere interest, to all the way up to like investment. So I'm very proud of the reception that season 2 has had, and just the doubling down on what I believe the show can do in a micro level, which is for me and the people I love. And then now I really want to test what it can do on a macro level of like if I really step out from behind like my own bubble and see what it's hitting for past my bubble, and be willing to be critiqued and be willing to have people say that shit don't land. Like just do it this way. I'm ready. I think that's next, but I'm very proud of season 2's reception.
Dope. You brought up interesting points, which gives me 2 questions. The first question is, I'm not pocket watching or anything, but this is in some degree a business podcast. And so you have a business, more or less partnership, right? Can you, like, there are independent podcast producers, you know, that kind of do their own thing, self-publishing, for lack of a better word. And then there are, you know, producers like yourself that work with networks. What is that like working for a network?
Man, so I don't know if I'm the best example of this because I started working for the network with a relationship with the network as opposed to coming with a product first. and then having a strictly business relationship. Now, our relationship has always been dependent on an outcome and dependent on a product, but it's not like I was introduced to him to pitch to him. So that has helped. It allows me autonomy. I think the autonomy of an independent producer with the guidance and the reach of a small business network, and it's a relatively respected network in the industry. And so it gives me the ability to take risks, to be honest. It makes me less fearful. All I gotta do sometimes is get the green light, and by the green light from Chris, more so is like, do you think this will work? He's never told me no, because this is a bad idea. He's always said, this is what you're gonna have to do to make something like that work. But he's always willing to tell me, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's gonna go. And so when I pass him or pitch to him something that he's willing to put on the network, I'm more, every time I'm more likely to pitch him something more radical. Every single time. Now, I've pitched him some stuff that's like low hanging fruit, but I don't really get engaged with low hanging fruit stuff. So it's that give and take. But I feel supported, and I feel like I can take risks because I believe I'll typically get a good metric of whether what I try is working. I'm not spitting into a void, and that's really helpful on being able to iterate and grow because I can get feedback. I can at least be guaranteed feedback. And with the independent podcast producing and podcasting, it's like, am I talking to myself? And not necessarily not because you don't have an audience, but because it's very hard at times to get the audience to respond to you. So even if they're peeping, you don't know if they're responding. And so for the first time, like, this is just how rookie I am. For the first time last week, I looked at the comments on the YouTube channel. So our episodes are on the network's YouTube channel. Appraise has its own private channel, but our episodes are on the Underdog channel, which is already established, thrive, monetize, all that stuff. And I'm so worried about growing the brand and growing that I never just stop to look at like how the show is doing and the reception on the network page. And there's comments on damn near every video, and there's like legit people giving feedback that I never thought to look at. You know what I'm saying? Like, I take my insular feedback because I'm cool with it, which sports helped me with. But like, there's a couple, like, people love 20. I'm like, hey man, I'm the one with the bigger picture. Like, no, he's an essential part of the show. One thing that I think you will find funny and interesting is that, so the Underdog started off as a sports network. It's pivoted to an entire podcast network because, money ain't been growing, and he was in California getting it. And he lives off of this, y'all. He lives off of podcasting. His network does. He has like over 60 podcasts on the network and growing. So, there's a comment, I think 7 weeks straight, and he said he's had to delete some because people are wild. But he said that one of ATP's gripes with ATP is that it lacks diversity because it's a black ass show. D, it's a black ass show. So I'm like, hey, it's working because I'm very intentional about that. I'm very intentional about who I'm putting on my show. One, because I know what my network's about. Mm-hmm. And two, it's like, this is part of the mission. So one, 20 being a fan favorite because he provides the humor, I provide the fact. And two, that works. And I got instant feedback for that. And then I'm getting the feedback of like, oh, your intent to be a black show is landing. Now, for white folks, it's scary, but for, you know what I'm saying? It's landing. For nothing else, it's landing. Even somebody mentioned in my hat. Somebody laughed and said, Mario always got that Tigers hat on. I'm like, oh, y'all got personal relationships with the show. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, outside of me and my worry of growing it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the benefit. Like, that's the absolute benefit of a network. But my situation is a little bit unique because of how Chris's personality is, how we met, and his trust in me to just deliver a good product.
Sure. So I know you don't do this like day in, day out, but maybe not day to day, but like week to week, maybe month to month. What is, running 2 podcasts, what is that like for you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, can you give us an idea of what that looks like in the average week?
Ooh, okay. So again, I don't produce nothing for the NFL show. It's ready made. I'm very thankful for that. What I am starting to do though, because I have just a natural or developed, maybe more so developed marketing eye. I'm starting to develop more marketing content for it. So I'm including into my weekly schedule. So I record whenever I have a recording to drop, episode to submit to the network. I spend a day doing the audio editing, making sure that's crisp. Then I just start formatting the visual editing, and that comes with different components to make sure that it's as clean as possible. First is just making sure the audio sync for the videos are working. I make sure that that I have two cameras, the one that's from what we record on, and then I have an external camera. So just to make sure, and I sync that up. Then I should start doing all the graphics and the pop-ups and all that stuff. And I do promos. I get the promos done. So all of those are each day in the week. I have something like a day lined up. And if I ever get crunched, then it's like, all right, well, you don't want to ever be caught. And I got caught like once or twice on a Monday because I submit Monday nights for a Tuesday release. You don't ever want to caught on a Monday submitting too late and whatever. And we're not at the level where people are like waiting at 12 p.m. to listen. Or I really don't know. Like those are the things where like that's my bubble, but I would assume that not, because I think you got to get to a certain level, and we're at thousands to tens of thousands. We're not at a 6-figure, you know what I'm saying, like viewership and listenership. So I think that's when you maybe can get into the other shit. So, but I just want to be in the habit of never missing my mark. You know what I'm saying? So if I miss a day, I squeeze that. And then you add into it research for recording episodes. So I try to record weekly, but me and 20 this season, we stack recordings. We don't timestamp our episodes. Our episodes aren't time dependent. They're like kind of socially relevant, but not really. It's more relevant to the topic. So I can pick something social at the moment of the recording, and it should stick. It should land relatively. So we will stack recordings, and the nights before, or 2 nights before, because I try to make sure that my facts are fresh, so that it's a natural conversation, that I'm not just reading off my notes, that I have a relationship with the information that I can share with the guests and share with 2020 likes to riff like me. So typically he might just know the phrase and that's it. Sometimes he doesn't. I used to give him the show notes. He ain't read them. So I'm like, because he's a natural. Like 20, if you think I'm a natural, 20 is a damn natural. And, but it's really just making the guests comfortable. So I want to make sure that it doesn't look like I'm hyper focused on the content. And I've had an ebb and flow of that. Like, I want to get out as many facts as possible. That's what the people like, or the conversation, but just been prepping that. That's always fun because that's also something I enjoy on its own, is just knowing the thing, doing the research, knowing the thing. So like your episode was great. One, because it was timely. Like, I think that advice is probably always timely, or just recognizing that the only way out is through, but it was really timely. Like, and to dive into like the different aspects of that was fun. So week to week, that's what it looks like, man. Making sure I'm prepped, making sure. And one thing I got to do is decide which hat I'm going to wear every week. I got to figure out which hat's going to get thrown on. It's a real decision.
How do you have your hats like stored? You know what I mean? Do you have like a...
I have a table. I have a table. They're folded. I mean, they're like, you know what I'm saying? And they're just like stacked. And it's it's a line. It's a line of hats.
I respect it.
Yeah.
I respect it.
And don't sleep though, D, because like some people like hatfish, bro. I'm not one of those. I'm not one of those. I gotta stand on it, bro. I could do it right now. Look, like I'm not. It's there, clean, but this is better for me.
That was for y'all. That was for y'all that's listening. I believe you, dog. I believe you.
Thank you, bro. I felt like you did.
I was gathering information. You feel me? I wasn't like doubting.
Yo, not for the sake of.
But so what's next for you? You know, what's with the platform, personally, if you want to, but what's next? Because I know you, based on like how you're communicating, I know you map things out.
Yeah. Good question, man. I appreciate you adding personally, man. Like, I've gotten I'm working towards, and I've gotten closer to a point where the things that I'm doing are all aligned with my personal life in some way, shape, or form. Their expression. ATP, Appraise the Phrase, is a communicative, media-based expression of how I feel and who I am. So I want that to go. I want that to go as far as it can. I have things that I'm looking to do that's community based and stretch my arms, and you know what I'm saying, people like you know what I'm saying, growing out and supporting what you do while also having what you do support ATP. Like, it's just that bidirectional community aspect of it. I want that to grow, partnerships to grow. We're gonna have some live events, man. I want the show to have live events, and I wanted to matriculate. Give me, I don't know when it's gonna release, but give me 3 years. I'm supposed to say 3 to 5, but I always gonna give myself a challenge. Give me 3 years, and if streaming services are still a thing, or I'm gonna try to have this shit, I'm gonna have to try to have ATP on a streaming service, bro, and have a little ways to really connect with the power of language and what we say, and also like start showing love to the origins of places as much as the origin of things. Now, personally, I want to continue to raise my son. I have a almost 3-year-old who sometimes with me, sometimes with his mom. I'm very excited to continue to see him grow and develop. His personality is awesome. He's the sweetest little guy of all time. He's very intelligent, smarter than his pops. So the world is in good shape in that regard. If we can get, we can protect him. Hey man, look, y'all, I'm not focused on it, but I could, you know what I'm saying? Whenever one wants to slide by, that wants to ride on this ride along with me, I'm down for it. Not yet, but almost there. You know what I'm saying? As things pass, I want to do that. And I just want to continue to make sure that financially, I'm able to create a great enough life for me that there is no thought to support other people financially as well. Like, that's a very big deal for me. Like, which we talked about is like, how am I going to do it without the finance? Well, you learn that it's hard to do it without the finance. Like, yeah, your soul and your essence should be the drive to serve, but where we stand as a culture, as a society, and I don't know if it'll ever change. It may look different. It may be a different model. It may be there may be a more righteous model, but we should always be willing to agree that it's the metaphor of your glass has to be full before you can pour into someone else's is just as much financial as it is emotional, spiritual, and all that stuff. So when I say financial, it's just resource based. Have a resource to share a resource. If you have nothing, then you can share nothing. So like, if sharing is a great value, it's null and void if you don't possess one thing. You know what I mean? So I want to be able to make sure that I always balance that out, man. And I'm a Capricorn moon, so maybe I'm more in astrology than I thought, but but I'm a Capricorn moon, and they care about money, so I'm always go after it to make sure I can take care of those that I love. So those are the plans, man. Don't be hit me with no hoodoo, negative hoodoo, but if you want to throw some love to me to make sure that happens, I ain't mad at it.
That's dope, man. I'm excited to see everything, you know what I mean? And to whatever extent I'm a part of it, I'm excited to be a part of it as well.
Dog, I'm running with you if you're running with me, bro.
We out here,
yeah.
dog. We out here. Another thing that really stood out to me about you is, you hit me, super respectful, when you came at me to be on your show, which I thought was, you can always tell a little bit about somebody, how they approach you. Right. Mm-hmm. And so there was that. And then, natural chemistry during the show. And then after the show, we follow up and you're like, in so many words, if it's cool, I would like to continue to keep in touch and check in, which is like, it's interesting because I brought up the juxtaposition earlier with us being similar, but you being the extrovert and I being the introvert. You know what I mean? But why is community so important to you? Because it was dope that you did that, but you don't see that every day. And I have a follow-up question to that too, but I'm gonna let you answer that one first.
Yeah, for sure. I'll try to keep it succinct and brief relatively. So community is important for me, man, because it's my way of knowing that purpose is fulfilled, bro. And if I am committed to my faith, and I'm committed to purpose through that, you know what I'm saying? Meaning like there's something bigger than me and there's something I'm here to do, and it should be generally good. Good being on the spectrum, good meaning helpful, good meaning not harmful, good meaning, then the main way outside of your own peace of mind is connecting with others to fulfill that purpose, to show that their life is impacted positively. And not saying you're the driver of that positive influence, but that you need people to even know. And so it's very important for me to say, I can't be living a purpose driven life, and I can't be saying that I'm making an impact because I'm kicking my feet up at the crib. No, man, it takes people. It takes who I deem good people. It takes people that I admire and aspire to be, and that inspire me. And if we're talking about directly for you, that's part of it. It's like, damn, this is another Black man that if the world is, and if our lives are somewhat calculated, if our lives are somewhat written, you know what I'm saying? I know we have the freedom and the gift of choice, but if there's something being written, I have to take advantage of having this person cross my path in such an intimate way. This ain't a walking across the street. This ain't in the same post office. I reached out, he agreed. Like you said, things flowed in a way that's like, hey man, you pay attention to when good things are happening and extend that. Continue to drive that. Like, why not sow into something good, something positive, something that is refreshing? So I'm like, hey man, that's community for me. Like, sow into something that's gonna be bigger than you.
I love that answer. Now, we're both the same age, mid-30s, and I'm sure, like myself, you have encountered different types of people in your path, like in terms of friendships, like, I don't know if how you reach out to me is how you reach out to other people, but at this age and from what you've seen in your travels, do you find it hard to make friends as an adult? Because I say that as someone who community isn't very important to me also, and I can speak for myself. I'll go into it after you go into it, but I find it very hard to make meaningful friendships as an adult.
Man, yes. Yes, I do. Like, flat out, yes, I do. Why? Semi-succinctly, because I feel like it's more common for people to be on edge, to be questionable, even of things that they desire. And so it's like we're spending time in the static. And so, like, with this fleeting moment, you chose static, dog. So right. I'm like, all right, bet then, like, nothing. If it was something, now it's nothing, because a person's choice is static or the disruption of the quality. And I'm like, well, then that's everybody's choice. And so I appreciate you saying the word meaningful, because, like, when two people choose not to make something disruptive and not to bring the static and just be like, oh, I'm cool with it because it's cool for now. Like, it don't got to be the most big thing. It's cool for now. So accept that goodness, accept that quality in your face and in the moment. So I deem it pretty difficult, because a lot of people, I do try to lead with kindness. I'm trying to lead with more radical kindness, a different kind, coming from a man, a Black man especially. So it's radical in the sense that it's that different, but it's what I believe in. And no, it's not met all the time. It's routinely actually not met with the same acceptance as it's given. But I get why. I just think the why is kind of whack, even if it's valid.
Feel that. It's very interesting in my experiences, because I've had especially these past few years, I had a very complex things happen with friendships coming and going. But it's like when there's new people in your life, especially as Black men, you know what I mean? It's like this, and I'm a pretty vulnerable person, like, some of my story, not a ton of it, but, like, I have had things about my life put on display in a way where I kind of embraced that, like the vulnerability was kind of liberating. And so it's nothing for me to really share anything about myself. But when it comes to meeting new people, it's like, especially Black men, love us, but it's like this twisted game of like emotional chicken a little bit, where it's like, it's like this first speed bump of like sports, current events, whatever. And then I'm like, well, let me share about this, you know what I mean? Like, about my life, like some real life stuff that's happening. And then like they might meet me somewhere, and I'm like, okay, well, let me share it. And then they're like, so who play next week? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I was like, okay, I guess it's this, or you just gonna see me YouTube videos of like how to create passive income. That's fine too. We can just be YouTube buddies. You know what I mean? So it's super interesting to navigate, and I'm where you are in the sense of like I get it, but it's just unfortunate sometimes, But
yeah.
I'm at a point where I embrace what I can, and my cup is full, And so, like, in terms of like my vulnerability, in terms of what I have to offer as a friend, like I can give that freely. And so, like, if somebody else doesn't accept that, I feel good personally about saying, okay, well, someone will, and if they don't, I'm good with what I have. Like, I have quality friendships, and I've worked for those friendships, and so like I'm happy. I'm fulfilled with those,
That's hard, bro.
But my last question for you is, what do you think we can all do? You can keep it to black men, or you can keep it to just like humanity. What do you think we can all do as a community to cultivate more meaningful friendships?
Oh, word. Beautiful question, bro. Thank you for asking me this, man, for real. I'm going to do both. I'm going to do humanitarianism. Man, that's the actual thing. I'm going to do the human element, and I'm going to do black men. I'm going to talk to black men first. Hopefully y'all hear me. I have faith that y'all will hear me, because, you know what I'm saying? Like, once you hear a thing, you can't unhear it anyway.
Right.
That's the sad thing about manipulation and all that stuff, is like, God damn it, I can't unhear the thing. So listen up. Man, look. I get why we have the bat. I get why we got the gat. I get why we have all these things to protect ourselves. I get why we lead with it. Man, listen to me. If we want to get somewhere, if we want to become the thing, you have to continue to be the thing. That's it. That's the only way out is through, dog. You have to be the thing to get the thing. And that doesn't mean that you will always get the thing if you're always the thing. So please remember that if you're always gracious, or if you're mostly gracious and you're mostly humble, and you're not humble, humility, I have a thing, natural humility. I don't force humility. If you're typically vulnerable, if you're typically kind, you will get that back. You won't always get it back, because we're all in different phases of our lives, but you will get that back, dog. Like, you can take care of your car to the nth degree. Sometimes you will drive over a nail, dog. That does not mean stop taking care of the whip. And that's how I feel about with black men. Like, dog, I know there's a lot of nails out here for us, but take care of what you got to take care of. Be that person that you want to feel like you want someone to be to you, or better yet, be exactly the type of nigga you want to be. Just give it a shot. Give it a shot. Be the dude you want to be. Give it a shot and see who rock with it, man. Because the veil that we're walking through, the mask in the world that we're walking through, man, people are deciding who we are anyway. So it's not helping. It's not helping. But then you eliminate the possibility of running into somebody like D. Lee, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just a blessing. It's a blessing, dog, to have this venue. Like, if this is the fruit of the venue, dog, okay then. You feel what I'm saying? Like, blessings to that.
For sure.
For humanity, I say the same thing. we're gonna have to get over the adversary, bro. We're gonna have to get over the potential harm, the potential risk. We're gonna have to get over that. To build community, we got to get over it. We got to be the one that's willing. In business, it's called a lost leader. And I know people believe in business. So like, you take this thing. So I'm not saying nothing that Mario made up. A lost leader. What do you think a commercial is? What do you think a giveaway is? You're willing to give something that you might not even get nothing in return for. That's the only way. But for the opportunity for somebody to rock with your product, you got to do it, dog. You have to do it as humanity. It's humanity. If we want to build community, be willing to give it up. Be willing to be the love. Be willing to be the kindness. Be willing to be the boundary. All the stuff that makes for people to be safe and protected and thrive. You know what I'm saying? Just be it, man, and we'll get there, dog. We really will.
100% agree. That was so beautifully said. I don't even have anything I can add to that. And normally I have stuff I can add to that, but I don't have anything to add to that. But look, man, we're gonna get out of here. It's run long, but it was worth it. You know,
man.
So,
what? I didn't even know how long Paul was going, bro. This is. I ain't trying to usurp nothing, dog. But Whenever you want to chop it up, bro, I'm down.
My man. Anything you want to, well, however you want to plug what you want to plug, I'm gonna let you do that. This is your space to do that before we get out.
Oh man, appreciate you. Yeah, just get with me. Be on the lookout for things to come. Appraise the Phrase. ApraiseThePhrase.com is the place you want to go. That'll take you to our YouTube site. That'll take you to the Instagram. That'll take you to the Twitter. All different facets. And just I'm coming with community, man. So if you want to learn more about where some of these words, phrases, things we say come from, but just ways to think about it, see Black folks doing something different. I connected with my guy on there. We will continue to do things. I don't want to say too much, but we will be doing things together, man. So hit me up, and then Instagram at It's Me Mario for the personal stuff. I am very much a marketing person on there. I very much have a persona of like, here's a little bit of me, here's a little bit of my interest, here's the thing that I'm trying to give y'all. So if you care about that, you can follow me there too. Appreciate you, brother, for real. I appreciate you a lot.
Bruh, I love you, dog. So much love.
Love you too, man.
For me, y'all know what it is with me, themonarchbrand.com. For the podcast itself, you're here, but, just to give it to you, podcast.themonarchbrand.com, available anywhere you stream, at themonarchbrand.com, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. For the Pomade Order podcast, we're building a world out here, and yeah, man, thank you so much. This is a dope conversation. Won't be the last one, but I appreciate you, man.
Hey, can I say one thing before we go?
Please.
The pomade, bro. The pomade, yo. So, my dog, took care of me. I was like, which ones which scents? Let me tell you, like, I'm fragrance style cologne, but I don't even need it. I feel my confidence level is at a 10, dog, when I throw this stuff in my hair, because I'm like, hey, I've arrived. I promise you. So makes my hair feel good. The smell good. It's just crazy, dog. I meant to tell you this in a text a while ago, bro. But like, yo, legit, fam. Like, I'm not even playing, legit, dog.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Glad you tried it. Glad you liked it. I'm glad you said it verbally, because now I can chop this joint up and throw it on you know what I mean? But hey, that's all I got, though. Thank you once again. Thank you all for listening. We out. Peace.
All right, y'all.